Many years ago, in the beautiful city of Abuja, there lived a very beautiful girl named Susan. Susan is the daughter of Mr. Matthew. Mr. Matthew is a poor taxi driver who had toured around the city and tried to bring up his daughter in a very beautiful and godly way. Currently, Susan was done studying nursing but couldn't find a very good job that could pay her well, as she was the breadwinner of her home. Susan had to take care of her dad and her younger brother. Susan had looked for various jobs in different hospitals, though they were good and okay, but the pay wasn't high. It wasn't even enough to send her brother to school and to put food on the table every day. Her dad was still also driving his taxi, but with the money he got every day, things were still difficult for them. Susan and her family were living in misery with the money she got paid every day. It felt like she had a leaking basket, as no matter what she does, even took extra job, money was never enough in her home. And one certain day, she heard of a job opening as a maid in a very rich man's home. At first, she gave it a thought. This job had no relation with her current profession, but at the same time, if she could work there for 1 year, she could make times 3 of what she was being paid in the hospital, as the rich man was strictly looking for a maid for his 2 children. He wasn't looking for a cook or for a help. He just needed someone that was going to take care of his 2 kids. With immediate effect, Susan went and applied for the job, and during the interview, she was given an opportunity to take care of one of the child to know if she was good enough. And while she was at it, Mr. Nathan watched how Susan cared for his beautiful daughter, Amanda. And he noticed that Amanda liked her. Naturally, Amanda was a picky child. Amanda doesn't allow anyone to touch her. But the moment Susan went close to her and tried talking to her and asking her about herself, Amanda was free with Susan. At that moment, Nathan knew that Susan was the best fit, as most people that had come for the interview weren't even able to convince her to say her name. Susan got her name and got so many other information from Amanda, and with immediate effect, Susan was given the job of a maid. Susan was to take care of Amanda and her little brother. After Mr. Nathan had given Susan the job, she was told that she had to be a living maid because she had to take care of the kids. She had to wake up as early as 6 to prepare for their school and also send them to bed each day. She was only given 2 days off, and that was during the weekend. She was permitted to go see her people on Saturdays and come back on Sunday, and that was how Susan started working in Mr. Nathan's house. While Susan was working for Mr. Nathan, she noticed that none of his late wife picture was anywhere in the house, although she had gotten some information that the late wife had died in a car accident, but she was concerned as none of her picture was lying anywhere. One certain day, while she was going through Amanda's book and arranging Amanda's room, she had seen a picture of Amanda's mom who had died, and she quickly asked Amanda who the person in the picture was, and Amanda said, "That's my mom. She had died when they just gave birth to my brother." Susan really felt bad for her. With this in mind, Susan vowed to take care of Amanda and her brother Kosi with great joy. Susan always tried to make sure they were comfortable. In fact, at that point, Kosi and Amanda always preferred talking to Susan, not even their father. Whatsoever they wanted to say, the way they felt that Susan could understand them more. Susan always played the picture of a good woman, of a good mother to them. Amanda loved Susan. Susan helped her with her assignments. Susan also did whatsoever Amanda asked her to do, provided they were the right things to do. And whenever the kids were sick, Susan took care of them, being that she was a nurse and she knew everything involved in taking care of the kids. As the days went by, Mr. Nathan really appreciated Susan's presence in his home, as he had noticed that the kids were no longer being arrogant and very annoying. Susan had taught them how to greet their elders, what to say and when to say it. Susan just made them happy. He was really glad that he had picked Susan during the interview. He was glad that Susan had come into their life. As the days went by, Susan was happy because she was now able to send a lot of money home. Her 1 month's pay was able to take care of the family very, very well. Her dad and her brother were doing perfectly fine. Whenever she goes to see them during the weekend, she noticed that they were always looking good, always looking happy. Her brother was really excelling in school, as that was what Susan was looking forward to. She wanted a situation whereby her brother could have everything he needed in school so that he could not lack in any way. One certain day, Mr. Nathan had asked Susan to make a journal of his kids. Susan should report to him every day what had happened with the kids, when the kids ate, and everything concerning the kids. To which Susan said no problem, and she obliged to. Whenever Mr. Nathan returned for the day, Susan was going to walk into his study and report all the activities for the day. She was going to tell Mr. Nathan everything that had happened, what Amanda did for the day, things that made Amanda worried. And with this, Mr. Nathan gradually started becoming close to his kids. After his wife died, Nathan was more concentrated in providing for his kids rather than being there for his kids. So with the presence of Susan, and the fact that Susan cared for his kids, and he could genuinely see that, he knew that Susan was the only way to get closer to his kids. So Susan giving him a journal every day wasn't just it. Susan had to stand, read, and explain her journal herself. He wanted to really know how the kids felt through the mouth of Susan. So whenever Susan was reporting, he was going to quickly ask, so what do you think about this? You see that Amanda wasn't okay because of some issues in school. How do you think we are going to fix it? And with this, Susan really got involved in the family. Really, really involved. Nita always seeked her idea when it comes to the matter of the kids. He did not take any action without seeking the attention of Susan. If Nathan was to get anything for Amanda, he was going to quickly ask Susan, do you think she's going to like it? Do you think it's going to fit what she wants? And if Susan does not give a go-ahead, Nathan wasn't going to get it. Over the days, Amanda one certain day had asked Susan to join them sit on the dining table while they were having dinner. Mr. Nathan was shocked and quickly asked Amanda, why should she? Amanda looked at her father and said, she has been very nice to us. She has stood in places where we didn't even believe she could. Dad, are you trying to tell me that Auntie Susan isn't helping you in so many ways? Auntie Susan had practically helped change a lot of things in our home. Not just that she takes care of us, but when we go to school, she helps to arrange your study. She helps to do so many things. She also helps me in my music classes. She also helps Kosi wherever Kosi needs. I love Auntie Susan and I really want her to be here. I don't want her to go, at least not for now. Her dad looked at Amanda and said, no problem. Susan, you can join us, he quickly said. To which Susan sat down and joined them to eat. After dinner that day, she noticed that most of the maids were gossiping about her. Wow, when did she just join us? And all of a sudden, she's sitting with the master and having dinner with the master. I can't believe. Another quickly said, you don't have to say much about it. We can all see that she's unique, she's different. She doesn't behave like us. She doesn't take anything to heart. She relates and play with the kids as if she was their mother. At some point, I started thinking she was the sister of the boss's wife. She's so free with them. I can't even believe that she could do all this. I won't do it myself. And they quickly laughed about it and departed. Unknown to them, Susan was listening to them from behind the door, but she didn't want to think much about it. To her, she was just being free. That was her true nature. She shouldn't become strict because people want her to become strict. Susan has always been a cheerful and a lovable person, and that was it for her. She can't change herself to make someone happy, and that was Susan for you. One certain day, Mr. Nathan's secretary called in sick. Not just that she called in sick, she called in sick on a wrong day. She called in sick the day they had a very important presentation for a multinational company. Mr. Nathan was angry and so irritated. Susan was just returning back from dropping the kids from school, and she had walked in on Mr. Nathan, seriously thinking on what to do and how this presentation was to go. The secretary just called in sick out of the blues. And she quickly asked him, "Good morning, sir. How may I be of help? I notice you look worried." Nathan looked at her and said, "Susan, I don't need this now. I don't need this. My secretary just called in sick and I need to present to a very big company. And she's the one that knows most of the things. So what am I supposed to do?" Susan looked at him and said, "I've been going through most of your files whenever I go to your studies. I can help you with the presentation." Nathan looked at her and said, "What do you know about engineering?" Susan said, "Nothing much. I know I'm in the medical field, but I've always read your books whenever you go to work. So I know most things. And I'm the one that always arranges your study." Nathan looked at her and said, "Okay, you chose this. I hope you don't misbehave and I hope you don't fumble in any way." To which Susan said, "Yes, sir, I won't." He quickly handed over the papers to her and told her, "Go change and start studying them because the moment we reach, we're going to present it to the company." Susan quickly ran into her room, changed into a beautiful maroon dress and held the files and started reading through it while they were in the car. Nathan looked at how genuinely she was reading through it, though she had fear as she didn't want to make any mistake that was going to cost Mr. Nathan anything, but she put her mind into it. She was ready to save the day. She was ready to do something that Mr. Nathan was going to be really, really grateful for. As Susan was studying and going through every details in that paper, she told herself, "Susan, this is your chance. This is your chance to prove that you're worthy of every spot Mr. Nathan gives to you." The moment they got to the multinational company, Susan sat down while Mr. Nathan went to the reception to tell them that he was ready and he was available. The moment they were ushered in, Mr. Nathan sat down and prepared the slide so that he could explain everything to the multinational company. When he was done explaining, Susan stood up and gave her own contribution based on what she had read and the details and the little notes the secretary had placed in each of the documents. Susan was able to convince this multinational company that the project Mr. Nathan wanted to give to them was something that was in line with their desire, where they were coming from. He wasn't about to take away their belief from them, but he was about to incorporate their belief into the soil they were about to set their feet on. Wow, the multinational company were really amazed with the way she had put everything in words, and they quickly congratulated them. And the head of the company quickly invited Mr. Nathan for a dinner, and he told her, "Come with her. I like this one. She looks smart and she really looks dedicated." And he quickly asked, "Who is she?" And that was when Mr. Nathan knew that he didn't know what to introduce Susan as. And Nathan quickly said, "She's my right hand, sir." To which the man said, keep her. From the look of things, she's going to take you far places." To which Nathan said, "Thank you very much, sir. We'll be there." But the moment they left, Nathan was shocked and he asked Susan, "Tell me the truth. Are you an engineer? Because from what you told me, you're a nurse. And I even confirmed from your place of work. So how were you able to say everything you said? How were you able to convince them? Because you didn't just do the conviction based on you were talking to your patient. You sounded like you knew the basics of engineering." To which Susan came clean and told Mr. Nathan, "I've always wanted to be an engineer. But after my mom fell sick when I was growing up, I told myself I was going to be a nurse so that I would be able to save the sick people, so that I could be able to give life to the hopeless, because my mom didn't just die because she was sick, but she died because we didn't have the money to pay for her hospital bills. She died because everything we brought to the hospital seemed not enough. So I vowed from that day that I was going to fight to give life to the sick." Nathan quickly asked her, "So why did you resign from your job? If that was your desire, why are you not working for me as a maid?" Susan told him, "Sometimes we make plans, but those plans don't actually materialize the way we want them to. The place I work isn't paying enough to cater for my family. I have to send money home every time. And if I'm to live on what I am in from the hospital, it won't be enough because my brother is still in school and he has to pay bills. So that's why I decided to be a maid." Nathan looked at her and said, "Okay, no problem. That's nice to know. At least you were able to save me today. I hope I'll be able to save you someday." To which Susan said, "Thank you very much, sir." And while they were returning back home, as Nathan wanted to drop her before heading back to the office, he quickly stopped by a shop and got her a beautiful dinner dress and told Susan, please, the moment you pick the kids, get yourself ready. As you know, I don't like being late for anything. I don't like to keep anyone waiting. The boss has asked me to get you, so I have to come with you for the dinner. To which Susan said, no problem, sir. I'll be very, very ready. That evening, after Susan was done with the activities of the day, she quickly got herself prepared and waited for Mr. Nathan to pick her so they could go visit Mr. Kumen, who had invited them for a dinner. The moment they entered Mr. Kumen's house, Susan was highly welcomed by Kumen and his wife. Kumen's wife really loved Susan at first sight. She quickly held her hands and said, you look so beautiful. What's your name? And Susan said, my name is Susan. And she said, what a beautiful name for a beautiful lady like you. And she turned and said, Nathan, this lady looks pretty. Is she your PA? Nathan said, no, ma, she's my right-hand woman. Mrs. Kumen said, what do you mean by right-hand woman? Give her a definition. What's she to you? And Nathan said, Susan is a very needed person in my life, as she's the one in charge of so many things in my life. I don't have a name for her right now. Mrs. Kumen said, okay, I totally understand. I totally do. And after the dinner for that day, while they returned home, Nathan couldn't stop looking at Susan. She was pretty, greatly admired. She spoke very well, very professional, and she could address everybody for who they were. She was very, very matured-minded to him. Susan is everything he would have desired in a lady. Just that Nathan was still tied up to his ex-wife. He couldn't let the feeling of his ex-wife go. This was his high school love, someone he had genuinely loved, someone he cared about, someone he wanted to have all to himself. And as life may have it, she left in a very short note. When he returned back to his room, after they had gotten to the house, he couldn't just stop thinking about his late wife. He told himself, if only you were here, you would have saved a lot of things. You would have saved me a lot of stress. You would have saved me a lot of thoughts. I can't let you go, he told himself, and he went off to bed. The next day, Nathan quickly thanked Susan for everything that had happened the previous day, as he didn't get the opportunity to do that when they returned. Susan told him, that's not a problem. I'm really glad I was able to help you. Thank you very much, sir. With Susan carrying out her daily activities as it should be, most of the staff quickly noticed that Susan followed the boss to dinner the previous day, and they couldn't stop talking. They kept on insulting Susan in their own little way. How Susan had come into the home to steal the boss's attention. How Susan had come to make herself the madam of the home. Unknown to them, Susan wasn't interested in all those things. Nathan was nice outside, but very, very arrogant inside. He yelled at his staff. He made them feel less of themselves. But because Susan was an open-minded person and had always told herself, there is no place that is going to treat you perfect. No matter what Nathan does to her, she never takes it to heart. Even the days Nathan yelled at her, little and slightest things that weren't even important, she never even looked at it as a big deal. So she wasn't even interested in Nathan at that point. Nothing had her interested in Nathan. One fateful day, her brother had called her to inform her that her dad was terribly ill. She quickly took permission from Mr. Nathan and went to see her dad. On getting to the hospital, her dad was seriously sick. When she looked at her dad and asked her dad, Dad, how come you've been sick and you've not said anything to us? And her father quickly said, I thought it was something I could handle. And so I always bought drugs from the side chemist close to us. Susan looked at him and said, Dad, you're down now and things are getting really serious. What are we going to do? Her dad looked at her and said, my lovely daughter, even if I die today, I don't have any issue with it. The only thing I've always looked forward to was to walk you down the aisle. As you know, I've always told you how walking you down the aisle was going to make me a proud father. I can remember one certain time you told us that you were in a serious relationship. How is the relationship coming along? Are you people already planning to get married? Please, can't you just get married for me? Can you just get married so that at least I can walk you down the aisle before I die? Susan looked at her father and said, why are you talking about debt? I don't understand. Why are you talking about debt? It has no relationship with what is wrong with you. Her father looked at her and said, you won't understand. I do. I know what is wrong with me and I know how it's eating me up. All I ask of you is for you to get married to that your boyfriend who you said you have. When she got home that day, after seeing her dad, Susan couldn't stop crying. Sincerely speaking, she had no one. She has not even been in any relationship. She couldn't stop crying. How was she going to convince her father otherwise? And how was she going to do? What was she going to do? Her father's last wish was for her to get married. What was she going to do about it? She just wanted her father to stop disturbing her, and that's why she told her dad that she was seeing someone. Now he's sick. What were they going to do about the situation? That evening, while she was arranging Mr. Nathan's office, gradually putting everything in place, she knelt down and started crying, thinking about the whole situation. Losing her father at a very young age, and now she didn't have a boyfriend. How was she going to go and convince her father? And Mr. Nathan walked in. The moment Mr. Nathan walked in, he looked at her and asked her, Susan, how are you doing? How is your dad? Susan looked at him and said, he's okay. Unlike Mr. Nathan, he asked, why are you crying? To which Susan did not say anything. Rather, she went down on her knees and started begging Mr. Nathan to get married to her. Mr. Nathan was confused. What do you mean? Why should I get married to you? Susan looked at him and said, you know I saved you once. Can you save me once this time around? Nathan said, no, I won't. You saved me with something easy, so why should I save you by getting married to you? Susan told him, I'm not asking you to get married to me like in a very big way. We can just do something like a very mini parlor wedding. Let it just be a contract wedding, please. At least for 3 months or 6 months. Latest 6 months, sir, please. Just 6 months. Mr. Nathan looked at her and said, why should I get married to you? I don't even believe in contract marriages. Why should I get married to you? Susan looked at him and said, okay, no problem, sir. Thank you very much. And she left. And that night, Mr. Nathan couldn't stop thinking. It was the audacity for him. How dare Susan look at him and tell him to get married to her? Who is she? A poor maid asking him to get married to her. The next morning, he noticed that Susan did not join them for breakfast. The moment the kids were done, she went to drop them and she left the house. She went to see her dad. As Susan was taking care of her dad, she was still thinking of how to convince her father that she didn't have a boyfriend and she might not even be able to get married if that was his last wish. As she didn't have anyone right now to get married to. So while Susan was still there in the hospital, Susan had stepped out to get some drug the nurse had asked her to go get for her dad. But she forgot her phone in her father's room. Mr. Nathan was calling Susan to find out some information about the kids. And when the phone rang, her dad picked it up as Nathan was written on the call. Nathan and Nathan's company name. Susan did not save his name as boss, but rather she saved his name as Nathan Global Limited. So immediately her father picked up the call and said that Susan wasn't around. But Nathan quickly asked who was picking the call, to which the father said he was picking the call. And he quickly asked him how his health was, and he said he was okay. Nathan asked the hospital where he was as he would like to pay visits to him, to which he made mention of everything. After Susan had returned, giving the drug to the nurse, she packed her bag and left. Few minutes after Susan had left the hospital, Nathan came to visit her father. And while they discussed, trying to know how he was faring and how everything was, Nathan found out that her father was seriously ill and he really felt bad for Susan. Before he left, Nathan's dad has asked him who he was and quickly asked, are you Susan's boyfriend, the one that was going to be getting married to her soon? Nathan was shocked. What's going on here? Susan's dad quickly told him, I don't have much time to live. And my only dream, my last wish for my daughter was for her to go get married to her longtime boyfriend, which she told us that she had. Nathan was shocked, though he nodded as if he understood what was going on. And he quickly said, yes, I don't have much time to live. I have less than 3 months to live. So I'm hoping that they were going to fix a wedding date soon. Though you came to visit me, but you didn't tell me who you were, so I just assumed you were the boyfriend. Nathan did not say any single thing. He was just looking at him in shock, as he wasn't Susan's boyfriend. And he wasn't even sure if Susan had any boyfriend. He just told him, "Thank you very much, sir. I'm going to try to come see you next time." And he left. When he returned home that evening, he quickly called the attention of Susan and asked Susan who her boyfriend was, as he had gone to visit her dad in the hospital. Susan said no, that she didn't have any boyfriend. And that was when it clicked to Mr. Nathan why Susan was asking him to get married to her. Nathan looked at her and said, "Are you asking me to get married to you because of your dad?" Susan said, "Sorry, how do you know?" Nathan said, "Yes, I went visiting him today as he picked your call when you went to get him some drug. So you want to fulfill your father's last wish. Is that why you want me to get married to you?" To which Susan said, "Yes, that's what I want. I wanted to make him happy. And that's why I'm willing to get married to you just for 3 months or 6 months, as the case may be." Nathan looked at her and said, "You know the kind of person I am. Are you ready for this? Do you really want this?" Susan nodded in agreement. "Yes, I want this. I just want to make my dad happy. That was his last wish to me." To which Nathan said, "No problem. I'll get married to you." Susan was shocked. Susan said, "Okay, thank you very much, sir." And she left. When she got to her room, she was really glad. She was so glad that Nathan had decided to help her just this once. And over the weeks, wedding preparations were made properly, and Nathan got married to Susan, with Susan's dad walking her down the aisle, right in front of the altar, the mini altar which they had created, as they did not do the wedding in this church, rather in a very beautiful small field. Right in front of the priest, Nathan had vowed to take care of Susan. And after the wedding, Susan's dad held Nathan's hand and pleaded with him to please take care of his daughter, and also asked Nathan not to bring tears to the eyes of his daughter. To which Nathan accepted. But the moment they got home, everything changed, as Nathan instructed Susan to go back to her room, knowing fully well that this marriage was a contract marriage, and the reason for the marriage was to help make her father's last wish come true. To which Susan obliged. She wasn't really yet interested in Nathan, so nothing could come out of it. But as the days went by, Amanda and Kosi really saw Susan as their mother. They gradually started even calling her mom. They loved Susan greatly. In fact, they were happy that their dad had gotten married to Susan, as they thought that their dad got married to Susan because of them. They were really, really happy. Most times, she was going to lay down on their bed, read them bedtime story, and even sleep off in the room, as whenever she wants to leave, Kosi would tell her, "You're no longer a maid. You're my mom now, so you can stay in my room." Dad is not going to be upset, you know. Susan was a bit scared, knowing fully well that she knew the terms and conditions to the marriage, but she just wanted to make them happy, so she was going to lay down in the bed with them. But as the days went by, in less than 2 months of the marriage, Susan lost her dad. Her dad had died and was properly given a befitting burial. Susan cried and cried deeply, as she felt that she had deceived her father, knowing fully well that she wasn't in love with Nathan, and Nathan wasn't really her husband. Deep down, she was grateful that her dad was able to walk her down the aisle, but she felt bad as she knew that she had deceived her father. During this period, Amanda and Kosi never left her side. Knowing fully well that Susan had lost someone, they always stood by her. Susan was grateful for the presence of Amanda and Kosi. She really, really liked the kids. But after Susan was done mourning her father and had returned back to work fully, she noticed that Nathan easily got irritated with whatsoever she did. And he always told her, "Why are you trying to behave like my wife? I want you to know that you're nothing like my wife. Stop trying to do things I don't like. Then we got married, you knew the terms and conditions. And like you said, since the marriage contract was for 6 months, and in 6 months' time, I'm going to let you off the hook. Stop trying to play my wife. You're not my wife, and you can never ever be my wife." These words always hurt Susan, but she also told herself that she wasn't Nathan's wife, and she had no relationship with Nathan. But as the days went by, Nathan felt terribly ill, so sick, and it was only Susan that was always available to take care of him, as most of the maids avoided him because he was also very irritated with anything they did. And it was during this period that Nathan really understood who Susan was. Even though he got irritated and did a lot of nasty things, vomiting on her body and so many things, Susan never ever got offended. She didn't even show the slightest sign of being offended. Rather, she gradually took care of him. And that was when most maids strongly believed that the marriage was real. They all felt that the marriage was fake when Susan returned back to sleeping in the maid's quarters. But when Nathan fell sick and Susan was always there for him, taking care of him, in fact, Susan practically slept in his room as she needed to take care of him every evening. Nathan refused going to the hospital for one day, so the doctor always came to the house to take care of him too. At this point, Nathan gradually started developing feelings for Susan. He saw Susan from a different light. She is real, she's genuine. She didn't even ask for anything from me. All she just needed from me was for me to stand in as a husband to her. So why am I treating her harsh? She's loved by my kids. She's learned. She's someone that can really help my life. So why am I treating her like this? Nathan thought to himself. And as he gradually recovered, he always told Susan that he couldn't sleep alone, that Susan should please come read him a book. Susan will read a book for him while he sleeps. And with time, Nathan gradually started making his interest known to Susan, as he always gave her little compliments. And when he was fully recovered, whenever he was returning from work for the day, he always got her a gift. And he would tell her, I know our marriage is not real, but I'm trying to make an effort here. I'm trying to do something that you're going to like. Susan was shocked as she never ever expected Nathan to fall for her. But Nathan had already fallen for her. Even though Susan liked him, but she was a bit scared. Hope this feelings I'm having for him is genuine. Hope everything is real. I don't want to fall and at the next minute I'm falling out. But as the days went by, Nathan always made reasons for the four of them to be together. Him, Susan and his two kids. Suggestive family hangout, family dinner, family hiking. And the kids enjoyed everything. At that point, Susan knew that Nathan was in love with her. And she was ready to make everything work. And on Susan's 27th birthday, Nathan had asked her what she wanted as a gift. Susan said anything was okay. To which Nathan told her, you can move your things from the maid's quarter and come to my room. Now we are officially married. Moreover, we were always married. Even though it was a contract, all we had to do was to tear the contract and seal the marriage. To which Susan did. And that night, Susan and Nathan blessed their marriage for the very first time. Nathan was grateful. Now he had someone he could lean on. Now he had someone he could share his pain, his fear with. Now he had someone he could tell whatsoever, and the person wasn't going to judge him for any reason. At that point, Nathan fell in love over and over again. This was something he had looked forward to. Someone who was going to like him for who he was and not for what he had. He really loved Susan. Everything about Susan was different from the woman who he had married before. But Susan had come to him when he needed her the most. Susan wasn't just a maid to him now, but the woman who he loved and who he genuinely loved. And after they were done sleeping, when they woke up the next morning, Nathan had found out that Susan was a virgin. And that was the greatest shock of his life. He never believed, he never even thought that Susan was going to be a virgin. This added to the love he had for Susan. In fact, he did not joke with Susan for one day. Not just that he had made Susan his official wife, he got her a car and even placed her on a monthly salary. He made sure Susan was comfortable. Susan was practically everything he wanted. Susan was really, really grateful. Susan was glad. Susan was living in the moment. And one thing she never did was to make Amanda Okosi feel bad for any good reason. She loved Amanda and Kosi as if she gave birth to them. Something else that shocked Nathan was that Susan never ever lived like she had so much. She was still living her basic life. She still used the driver to go pick the kids. She still did everything like normal Susan. Even the car he had gotten for her, Susan barely drove the car. Even the monthly pay, Susan barely touched the money. The only time she touched the money was the time she had to send money to her brother. Or when she was doing shopping for everybody, for the four of them, But Susan never touched the money. It wasn't important to her at that time. She just wanted to be happy, and she was getting everything she wanted. As days went by, with Susan enjoying everything, living her best life, loving her husband, supporting him in so many ways. One day, Nathan had called her and, you decided to study nurse because of your mom. If you would love to do engineering as a second course, I'm ready to support you down the way. Susan looked at Nathan and said, no, don't worry. I'm still okay being a nurse, and I'm still studying online. Whenever the kids go out, I study online. I'm just looking for a hospital that I can work with temporarily, as I don't want to be too focused on work and leaving the kids neglected. You're always busy. If I'm always busy, no one will be there for the kids. To which Nathan told her, thank you. Thank you very much for understanding everything about me. Thank you for putting me first. Thank you for putting my family first. With Susan and Nathan living their best life, enjoying the moment, one fateful day, Susan had missed her period. She quickly told herself she knew all the signs and symptoms. She suspected that she was pregnant. She was really happy to be a mom, and she quickly ran to the bedroom and carried out the pregnancy test. And to her surprise and to her joy, she was pregnant. While she was packaging and hoping to tell Nathan the moment he returned, as she stepped down from the room, heading out to go pick the kids, right in front of the gate, she saw a woman that looked exactly like Nathan's previous wife, and she was confused. I thought she was dead. What's going on here? And when she drove off and went to pick Amanda and Kosi, after they returned from school, she wasn't longer outside the building, but she was inside the building. And when Susan came down from the car, the woman walked up to Susan and asked if Nathan was around. Amanda looked at her and called her mom. And that was when Susan could confirm that Nathan's previous wife was actually alive. At that point, Susan started crying. She didn't know what to do. She didn't know what to say. She didn't know if to call Nathan to tell Nathan he had a guess. She didn't know how to comprehend the whole situation. She was about to share her own good news just for Nathan's previous wife to be standing in front of her. What was she going to do? How was she going to deal with the situation? Was this her dream? Was life supposed to take everything she had? But why? Why now? Why? Why did life wait for her to get pregnant before doing this to her? And why is she even coming up now? I thought she was dead, Susan told herself. Susan had told her, good afternoon, ma. Even with tears in her eyes, she ushered the lady in and told her to please sit and wait for Nathan. She also instructed the maids to get her a drink. Susan took the kids upstairs, quickly changed them, gave them lunch, and called Nathan while the kids were having lunch. And she quickly told Nathan that he had an important guest waiting for him in their home. Nathan wanted to know who was that, but Susan said it wasn't something they had to talk over the phone, that he should come back if he wasn't doing anything. The moment Nathan got home, he was shocked to find out that his ex-wife was alive. Nathan immediately started shedding tears. Susan walked into Nathan, shedding tears, and the ex-wife sitting on the other side of the chair. What was she going to do? What was going on? Susan looked too confused with what she had just witnessed. At that point, Susan didn't know what to do. Was she supposed to go pack her things and leave the house? Or was she supposed to stand and wait for Nathan to see what was going on? What was going on? He said his wife was dead. Everyone said the wife was dead. So who is standing right in front of them? Was it her twin sister? Can someone explain what was going on to her? Susan turned and returned back to the room. Please stay tuned to find out what was going on in this particular story. What was going on? Nathan had said his wife was dead. So who was standing in the living room? Was it her twin sister? Or was it the wife? Did she really die? But still remain your favorite storyteller, Zika. Please and please support us by listening to our stories. And if you really do enjoy them, please share our stories to your loved ones, as it helps our channel to grow. All my followers, my subscribers, thank you. I really appreciate each and every one of you. It's been a long way all. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for never letting me down. Thank you for sticking by me. I really appreciate you. We still remain your favorite storyteller, Zika. Bye for now.